I'm Aleisha Neumann. I'm a Deputy Principal at Shaler Park State High School in the Logan region, and I'm also an international hockey umpire. I started playing hockey because my parents were playing hockey and it was a bit of a family sport. And Mum and Dad always encouraged me to make sure I was volunteering and giving back to the club in Toowoomba, because obviously fixtures don't happen in local level without people volunteering. So I umpired instead of doing raffle tickets or things, because that's what I thought was a little bit more fun. At some point someone said, "You're okay, do you want a free trip to Cairns for a state championship?" And I was like, yeah, that sounds fun. And then I just continued to do it, and then I turned a little bit older and started to earn a bit of pocket money and thought, yep, this is a good way to get some cash in my pocket. And one thing led to another, and I got offered a position at a national championships in 2009, I think, at under 15 level. And then, yeah, it just progressed through age groups, and in 2013 went to my first AHL, and 2014 I was on an international hockey field in South Africa. Yeah. Michelle Joubert was the other umpire, who is one of the world's best umpires, recently retired, and I was more scared and nervous about meeting her than umpiring the match. But I went out the day before with her and some other South African locals and got to experience Cape Town from a local's perspective, and then that sort of lifted all the worry about the pairing of the umpires and just worried about the hockey.
And how'd you go in the game?
I think I was okay. They didn't yell at me too much. So,
Was it close?
I don't even remember the scoreline, to be honest. Australia were there doing a series, so I did 3 games between them and South Africa, and a game between Belgium and South Africa, and then they did 4 practice games in Stellenbosch against the Dutch. Those games did not go so well, but they were practice matches, so yeah, way to experience international hockey for the first time, 1 versus 2 in the world. Yeah. I think I find it fun and a challenge, but also all the connections and family that you sort of pick up along the way. Like, the team gets there in an environment where they're in that hotel and they become really close and connected. It's the same umpiring, and some of my best mates I have only met through umpiring, and you only see them every 6 months, 12 months, 2 years sort of thing at international events. So it's mostly the off-field stuff that sometimes you remember more than the on-field bits, and I get to watch the sport I love from a very close position, and it's good fun. Firstly, Mum and Dad. I can remember being a kid and Dad elbowing me on the field, being like, blow your whistle, point your arm, trying to teach me the rules and how to umpire. So my first ever umpire coach, thanks Dad. But I think Queensland do it beautifully, where we bring our senior national and international umpires back into underage championships. So your Lynn Cowie McAllisters, your Julie Ashton-Lucy's, Lynn Hill were all umpire managers and mentors from me from 13, 14, 15 years old. And it's pretty special to have a person mentor you 1 month, and a few months later they're on the field at an Olympic Games doing the work themselves. So them, and then recently in the last few years, Hockey Queensland and Queensland Academy of Sport have been massive in supporting the international preparation, which is not easy for us to balance with full-time work and no payment for what we do. Week to week, I'm doing 2 gym sessions, 2 on-field sessions, strength and conditioning just at sort of the Queensland level, plus my own club stuff. And then I'm playing and umpiring back-to-back on a weekend to make sure I get exposure to both. We meet once a month at the moment online, which, when you've got people all around the world, is sometimes 6 a.m. in the morning and then you're going to work all day, or sometimes 1 a.m, 11 p.m. at night, and again it might be a midweek meeting. But we also do fitness testing every 3 months, where we're running a yo-yo, doing sprints, and if you're not hitting those targets, the possibility is that you are removed. And it has happened this year, where 2 umpires were removed from the Olympic group because they weren't meeting their fitness requirements. We're not given the results by name. Prior to Tokyo, they did give it to us in a, like you saw where you were, but you didn't see any names attached to the other people. And I think I was top 3 for the yo-yo, top 4 or something for the sprint. So I still play Premier League 1 with the Northern Suburbs Hockey Club in Brisbane, and I think it's really valuable to, as a cross skill, where I can learn to read the game, understand what players are trying to achieve, or understand intent behind a tackle or an action. But positionally as well, I can kind of motor myself up the field into a position in a better sense, knowing that the pass A will go to B to C to D to the striker that's 10 metres behind me. Lorene Delforge is probably the other example. Yeah, she's the Belgian indoor hockey captain. So she goes to the World Cup as a player and still plays for the Royal Antwerpen Hockey Club at their national level. But outside of her, I don't know of too many that still play at a high level. But for me, it's so important to understand the flow of the game, what the players are trying to achieve, what the intent might be behind something, because I experience it as a player. You can kind of read it better. Well, I think I can read it better. I'm umpiring. There's been a few moments, I suppose. It was really special in 2015 at my second Australian Hockey League. I umpired the gold medal here in Brisbane with Lisa Roach, who was retiring at that championship. And if you know Roachy, she's also a multi-Olympian, multi-World Cup attendee, you know, one of, if not the best umpires in the world at the time. So that was a pretty big privilege to umpire her last National League game with her. Walking out on the first game in Tokyo is always a special memory that I'll have, and looking across the sideline to Tammy Stanley, who's from WA. She was the tournament delegate at that Olympics, so running the hockey, and Minka Woolley from Tassie, who was one of the umpire coaches. Seeing them standing and applauding, specifically for me, was quite special because there was no crowds, so I could 100% see them in the stadium. And yeah, Spain-Argentina was a feisty way to start my Olympic campaign. Other than COVID, in 2020, we started Pro League with the intent to do mixed gendered appointments for men's and women's fixtures. We kicked off in New Zealand with those, and I was lucky enough to be the first female appointed to a top tier men's match between New Zealand and Belgium with Adam from Brisbane, Adam Kearns, and at the same time Steve Rogers, also going to Paris, was doing the first male on a female match at the same level. So we all sort of shared that experience together, and there was a few more scheduled to occur through the year, but obviously Pro League was put on a pause pretty soon after. All of those feelings, anxiety, not wanting to ruin it for the next person, to make sure that, you know, it wasn't a, oh, well, that experiment failed and we won't do that again type thing. But I'm fortunate enough to have done men's matches in Toowoomba as a kid in Brisbane, and I felt really comfortable and supported with Adam and Steve and Vunri as the team of umpires there. And once the match started, it's just hockey. But initially, yeah, just wanting to make sure I did a good enough job that they would do it again. It's a challenging question. I would like to be described as an umpire who's fair and open to conversation during the match. Not necessarily a chat about what you're having for dinner, but to justify a decision or explain why something was or wasn't the case. And I suppose, yeah, the fairness is the big one, to make sure that I see umpiring as a service to the game, particularly at the international level. I'm not there to win a medal, but players have given up work opportunities, study opportunities. For the Aussies, they've moved their lives to the other side of the country in order to try and win a medal, and then they've put the trust in me to go and do the best job that I can and give them a fair game of hockey so that they have that opportunity.
Beautiful. I think that's exactly what you are.
No, thank you. So in the past, it was an email. Well, it is still an email, but in the past, we weren't told when we were receiving the email. So last year, in a newsletter around June, they said on September the 11th, we will be releasing the appointment. So we knew on that day we'd be getting an email. What I forgot was that would be at the European time. So when I got up at 9 a.m, that day or earlier, I'm checking my emails, and it took me probably 3 hours to realise that they were all still asleep, and that the email was going to come, if it came, later that day. And yeah, I think it came through about 8, 9 o'clock at night. And we don't see anyone else who's appointed in that email. It just is addressed to us. It's finished by saying this appointment is confidential, don't tell anyone. So of course we all immediately, as the umpiring group, message each other to say, did you get an email? And previously they didn't notify people who didn't get the email, and so that's where they found out, was getting a message from someone else to ask if they'd got an email, whereas in this cycle, based on our feedback, they contacted those people by phone or email first. But I can still remember the email for Tokyo. I woke up on a Tuesday morning, end of term 3, to a text message from Adam saying email ? And I knew exactly what email he was talking about. So I quickly tried to log in on my phone, and it was sitting on there from subject line, Olympic appointment, and then jumping around and carrying on at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday morning because I'd gotten an email, and it was off to my first Olympics.
How did it feel?
Oh, super exciting. You kind of wish and hope, and you can be told, yeah, it'll come. You're totally going to receive it, but until it's there in writing, you don't really truly believe it. And it's just very exciting and lucky to be able to represent Australia. I think be a student of the game. So whether you're playing or not, learn about the game as a player. So if you're not playing, I think people should be trying to play at some level to get that understanding. And we're not always the most popular people, so it is challenging at times, but find the people around you who can give you advice and mentorship, and listen to that, and park the other stuff if it comes at you in a negative sense. But it's hard work. You got to, it's not going to be easy, and just have fun along the way. If you're not having fun, it's not really worth it, I don't think, because that's where you get your motivation and your excitement from.